Hey everyone, welcome to Open Books with Alana and Erin, two female leaders modernizing the accounting and the leadership spaces. Today we're going to be talking about overthinking. I am a serial overthinker, something I do on both a personal, emotional level and a technical level. So we're going to talk about that, how we can help our team members who may be overthinkers, whether or not overthinking is a good or a bad thing, or is it totally neutral? We're going to talk about it all.
Yeah.
Let's hop on in.
Awesome.
So overthinking, what do you consider overthinking?
So for me, I equate overthinking to kind of over-engineering. So very much spending more resources than needed for that situation at hand. You touched on the personal and the technical side, which is very true, I would say. But I think for me, it's once you've moved away from that original issue or the original question or the original subject matter, once we started to distance from that, you're starting to overthink something. Do we need it? Who knows, right? Depends on the situation.
Yep.
Like we'll talk about, there's good things that come out of overthinking, but you're starting to get away from your original goal, is what I would say.
Yeah.
What about you?
Definitely, like I said, personal and technical. I overthink both ways. I am much better at managing my technical overthinking now. But back in my early career, I wanted to learn everything.
Yep.
So I dug into everything.
Yep.
But I really do think there are two types. It is very easy if you are an overthinker to spiral, just spiral out when something happens at work or at home. And it can affect both ways. Like if something's happening at home, you're just spiraling, thinking about that. It's going to affect your work life. Something happens at work, it spirals and affects your personal life. Just like not being able to fall asleep because you are thinking about that only over and over and over.
Yeah, and you can't.
So to me, it's the spiral of the personal, taking that one thing that happened and extrapolating all of the possible results.
Yep.
It's like, no, you don't know what's going to happen, or maybe you do. Maybe you do know some parameters around what happens after an instance. So like trying to bring that in.
Yep.
And then the technical is researching too much.
Yeah.
I love that you compared it to over-engineering. Very similar. Like I used to over-engineer spreadsheets a lot.
Yeah.
I still do, but I've gotten better at limiting myself, and also understanding that other people have to understand what I'm doing as well.
Yep. Yeah.
So technically, I do think overthinking is diving down the rabbit hole too far, or over-engineering stuff, making processes so complex that only you can follow them. Like there's a problem there.
Yes.
So that's kind of what I would consider overthinking.
Yeah, and I think too, the overthinking also leads you to not necessarily finding more issues, but if you think about like on a technical side, like maybe you have a software conversion and here's the information and the answers we have now. Don't overthink it because we don't have those answers yet. And if you start overthinking, you're going to catastrophize it.
Yes.
And we can't solve A to Z in 1 hour, right? And so I think sometimes overthinking, you can actually start to like get off course as well because we haven't thought of, or we haven't had time to think that through. This is the solution we have right now. Let's get this in place so then we can attack the other things.
I love that. I had not thought about it in that context of a software conversion, but I think is so applicable. It's so easy to get overrun by
Yes.
thoughts of what's going to
Yeah.
happen or what is not going to work, that you
Yep.
stall out.
Yes.
And then
Yep.
nothing happens.
Nothing happens.
And then the software changes before you're ready for it to change.
Yes.
And you're like, bah! Then it's red flags, red sirens going,
Yep.
alert, alert.
Yep.
So actually, by overthinking, we've destroyed
Made it
everything.
worse. I heard a really good analogy the other day, like when talking about a software conversion, that if you're moving 100 things 1 inch every day, as opposed to moving one thing to the finish line every day. So if you're moving
Oh.
10 things 1 inch all together for 100 days, all of those things will finish all together at the end. But instead, if you focus on the task at hand, you're moving that one thing to the finish line, and then each day you're moving something new to the finish line.
Yeah.
It was just an interesting way of like, oh, if you don't overthink it and you just focus on the one task,
Yeah.
that to the finish line, and just keep working every day, as opposed to a inch by inch for everything.
Yeah. And then you're also, as you're identifying issues,
Yep.
you are answering those
Yes.
questions that maybe you
Exactly.
had as each one completes. And it just builds on top of each other
Right.
rather than moving everything
Yep.
to one point, stalling out.
Weighting everything.
Okay, now we're moved to the next one, stall out.
Yep.
Oh, I love that.
By making sure you're not leaving somebody behind, you're not letting anyone finish either or get ahead, right?
Yeah.
Which I thought was just really interesting. to think
Yeah.
about.
That reminds
Yeah.
me, remember, this is totally,
Yeah,
it relates, but
I'm sure it relates.
it's so I used to be in a prior life a massage therapist, and I went through massage school, and I remember we had a wide range of students
Oh,
because
sure.
it was a night school
Yeah.
class. We started class at 5:30 and ended at midnight. So wide range from people like this was their second or third career
Yep.
versus me who had just finished community college, so
Yeah.
pretty young. And I remember one of the students, we may have been having an argument about who the teachers are supposed to teach to.
Okay. Oh,
Because
sure.
I was a very overachiever
Yep.
at the time.
Yep.
And also, like, this is going to sound really mean, but there are some dumb people in my class. And she kept saying that as instructors, you had to teach to the slowest, not
Yep.
slowest person, but like
Sure. Yep.
someone moving at the slowest pace.
Right.
And I'm like, you cannot do that.
Yep.
You are going to lose everyone who's ahead.
Yep.
Everyone who's learning at a regular or accelerated learning pace.
Right.
And it was a very loud and long argument. And eventually it was midnight and we all were done for the day.
Had to
And I'm
go.
like,
Yeah.
whatever. But that has stuck
Yes.
with me. And
Yep.
it's exactly what
It
you're
is.
saying.
Yep.
You can't stick to the slowest
Yes.
thing
Yep.
or you lose everything else.
You totally do, and you get no traction.
Yeah.
Yep. Totally. Yeah.
Overthinking. Back to overthinking.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What was that? Over engineering?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, just like our podcast. Who would have thought? Just tangents, related tangents.
No
So, overthinking, it
Yeah.
can be a weakness.
Yeah.
Is it good, bad? What would you say about it?
So I think I'm in the same boat as you in that, or maybe I just mentioned a little bit ago, like maybe it's neutral. I kind of view, so I've been doing a lot of work recently with like Lean Six work, which is creating the most efficiency with the least amount of waste within accounting, which has been a really interesting kind of thing to explore. But I view overthinking as it technically is a form of waste in an efficient process because we are trying to solve this one problem, right? And if we're spending energy and resources continuing to overthink and solve something, we're creating that waste. However, at the same time, overthinking actually helps you solve future problems. So that waste, while yes, maybe it's creating some form of waste in the process, it's useful waste down the road, and not all byproduct of the waste is useful.
Yeah.
Where overthinking, I do think does provide value down the road.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little bit of both. What about you?
Very similar. I don't think it's a weakness. I do think it's more of a neutral thing.
Yeah.
Because overthinking, especially in the technical space, I think is a form of curiosity.
Sure. Yeah.
So, and I don't want to come down on anyone for overthinking too much that I destroy their curiosity in the space. I mean, someone's curious about accounting. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Like, please spend some time going down the rabbit hole on this. But there are times when you need to be able to prioritize, like, hey, we need to solve this.
Yeah.
If you want to research more, go for it. But we have to get to this decision like now.
Yeah.
So we can't overthink, over-engineer any of this. Like, we've got to make the decision.
Yeah.
So I think with parameters and boundaries and some guidelines in place, overthinking can actually be a really good thing.
Totally.
On the personal side of things, I think it's good to, again, like, let your brain think through some stuff.
Yeah.
But also identify when you're spiraling and like take that step back of, oh, okay, I need to, I understand I'm spiraling. I need to stop this now, or I'm just going to continue to overthink and soon smoke is going to come out of my ears.
Totally. Yep.
So on the technical side, I'm all for it. We have a team member who we all joke now because she loves rabbit holes.
Yeah.
And it's... we love them because she always finds out the strangest information and brings it to our team calls. And it's like part of the culture now that, oh, we know this person's always going to have a treat for us.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time it's interesting stuff that we should know.
Yep.
And that it's just bettering the firm as a whole because she's sharing this information. And I would never want to set up so many boundaries that she can't do that, or that she stops doing it altogether because I've just basically told her, hey, stop doing that altogether.
Right.
I love that curiosity in her, and I love seeing it, especially in our new, like the new staff who are new out of school.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But boundaries need to be set.
Time and place. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boundaries for sure. Yep.
It's
Totally
very
get that.
much like your the lean.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Knowing when we can
Yes.
spend the time overthinking versus this is a priority. We've got to finish now.
Well, and I think part of it too, into your team member who brings forward that stuff, is knowing if we have those answers already. So like somebody's done some overthinking and they have these solutions. Well, if we need those down the road, how are we capturing that? That we're not going to recreate the wheel down the road when we need to know that. So are we bringing in that person who has done the legwork and found those answers, or how do we know, you know, that knowledge exists? I think is really important.
So important.
Yep.
And I don't think accountants, and really probably most industries, are very good at capturing the information and knowledge that people just get because they're combing through things. We've got to figure that out. I mean, I feel like we do a decent job with the fact that, like, we have team calls that people can share stuff on, but it'd be nice if we could just download our brains into a computer and be search like a database, be like, hey,
OCR
has anyone looked at this before?
Yes. And then you find all the keywords. That would be sweet.
Maybe in the future. I mean,
the industry needs to figure something out because we have so many people retiring with all of these like 40 years of experience. There's got to be a way to like download brains at this point.
I mean, there has to be. It'll take up a lot of computing power.
Yes, it will.
Be very expensive.
Yes.
Not very environmentally friendly.
No. But as long as you can keyword search, really, that's
that would do
matters.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what? I'm pausing. We're gonna cut this part out.
Yep.
Okay. So we answered.
Yeah. So we're at
all of them.
What would you consider one of the keys to leading overthinkers to success?
Okay, I kind of answered that one already. But we can go. Oh, no, I'm reading yours. Oh, no, I kind of answered mine already.
Oh, the curiosity?
Well, with the prioritizing the completion of work.
Yeah, so then just say, so what would you consider?
Okay.
And then we'll move into the reoccurring segment.
Perfect. Ready?
Hold on. Okay, yep.
So what would you consider one of the keys to leading overthinkers to success?
Well, I think you touched on it a little bit before with just that balance, right, of allowing the curiosity, but just making sure there's a boundary or a time and place for that. This question makes me think more of the personal overthinking as far as the like they're starting to spin out and spiral.
Right.
And for me, it just goes back to one of the cornerstones of servant leadership with the trust of I don't want them to think that they need to overthink it and think that they need to spiral because we can just talk instead.
Yeah.
I don't want them to sit and stew on it. Let's talk. I'm open and honest and let's have a very transparent discussion. Because I don't want them to have to worry and have to think of every possible solution and be ready for every solution that might come their way.
Yeah.
Let's just talk instead.
Yeah. There's also the identifying who your overthinkers are, especially on the personal side.
Totally.
So you can address it in the conversation with them like, hey, I know you're going to overthink this.
Yep.
Your brain is your brain. You know how it works best. I don't know how my brain works best, but, getting there. But overthink, I know you're going to overthink.
Yep.
And acknowledging that, be like, these are the things we know now.
Yep.
I know you're going to overthink this.
Yep.
Acknowledge it, but it's going to be okay.
Right.
Give a little bit of, we know things are going to be okay in the end. This isn't rocket science, or heart surgery.
Yes.
So definitely, I think knowing who your overthinkers are
That's
on
huge.
both the technical and personal sides is just really key to being able to manage them and lead them through that.
And that's actually something that I've learned from team members is you're never going to stop 100% of your team from overthinking either on the technical side or the personal side. And so I think just being prepared to have open dialogue with them when you do notice it on both sides. I think that's you can be prepared in that instead of trying to ever kibosh it or stop it. Specifically thinking about the personal side, you will still have team members who will overthink it, and you just have to be open and honest with them to have that dialogue.
And being open and honest, another extremely important part of servant leadership, foundation of trust, keeping things open, transparent. I would say probably the biggest thing that I've learned from my team is that overthinking is a form of curiosity.
Yeah.
I know I said that earlier, but I was always, even though I am an overthinker myself, I was always annoyed by other people doing it.
Okay.
Because I'm like, why are you doing this? I've already looked at this. Why don't you just trust me?
Yep.
And then realizing like, no, some people just need to read it for themselves.
Yep.
And also I shouldn't want to stem their curiosity again. Like, who's curious about accounting? Not that many people.
True.
And that it's not a good or bad thing, like fairly neutral. We need parameters around it, but not being frustrated by it and letting people explore things on their own gets them used to reading technical texts, which I'm like, yeah, you can do that.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But just acknowledging that I think in the technical side of things, it is a form of curiosity. And I always want to encourage people to be curious.
Totally. Yep.
So what would you tell yourself way back in the day?
Yep. So mine has to do with with my own overthinking. And it's just that saying of, if it's not going to matter in 5 years, don't spend more than 5 minutes on it. That would just help me with my own personal overthinking. Especially just early on in your career when everything feels really monumental or big. Things feel so big early on in your career. That, half the stuff that I spun out over, I could not even name now. Like I actually can't think of a whole lot, right? So just don't spend more than a reasonable amount of time if it's not going to matter in the long run. What's something you would tell yourself?
Same. Like because I overthink in both ways. Definitely the personal side of things, that spiraling. And it's been something with me my whole life. I've always been an overthinker. That you can overthink. It's not doing anything healthy for you
For sure.
in like
Yep.
the way that I was doing it. And it caused a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of emotionally extremely draining times when like I had no control
Yep.
over what was going to happen.
Yep.
And it's like, I know I'm an overthinker and I know I can give myself boundaries. Is it going to work? No, but just myself acknowledging it that, hey, this is how you are. It's all right. It's a neutral thing.
Yes.
I should control it as much as I can, but knowing that, hey, it's going to happen. I'm going to do it. But when you had talked about that 5 minutes to 5 years, I was like, oh my gosh, that's what I needed to hear. It's one of the best things I think you've said is for me personally, because it's so true.
Yes.
I know I lost sleepless nights with no idea what it was about.
No idea what it was about. And it was probably over, $2 or something.
Yeah.
Like in the grand scheme of things, like just not the energy I should have given it by any means.
That materiality threshold right there.
Works in life.
Yes.
Should I care?
I loved that though.
Yep.
When we were prepping, I saw that. I'm like, oh my God, Alana at it again. You got the best thing. So thank you very much. I appreciate that one. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today on Open Books. We aim to share insights gained from our past and our futures to foster growth within the leadership and accounting communities. See you next time.
Thanks, everyone.